Hello everyone, good evening. Charlotte here from Enriching Environments, and I'm just going to wait a few minutes before everybody arrives. And I hope you have all had a wonderful Tuesday, whatever you're doing, and enjoying, if you're here in Dubai, enjoying the beautiful November weather as winter is here, or winter is approaching, whichever way you want to look at it. And I hope you're all enjoying a beautiful Diwali week as well. I love celebrating Diwali with the children. It's one of my favourite festivals, as there's so much craft that can be done. I mean, with all the festivals, to be honest, so much craft can be done. But I really find Diwali really special. Olivia and Harry's godmother is Indian, so we include a lot of Indian cultural themes with the work that we do, and the music and dance and things. So Diwali is a really special one for us. So I think everyone is here who wants to be here. So I will begin. And as the title, which I hope is appearing on screen, is showing me, hello, hi, good evening Sarah, good evening Nonam, hi. As the title, which I hope is showing on screen, is feelings are called feelings because we're meant to feel them. And I don't know who it was that said this quote, and I can't remember where I read it, probably online, but I thought it was really, really brilliant, because we often, with us as adults and particularly with our children, we are really fast forwarding into explaining our feelings and almost rationalizing our feelings with our children and with ourselves, before we actually have a chance for us to feel them in our body or our children to feel them in our body. And as I was preparing for this session and as I was writing my notes, it really, and I've got lots of bullet points as ever, it really, really struck me that I don't actually know whether this session is more for us as parents, or even if we're not parents, us as adults, or us as children. It's really one of these everything that we do in parenting is work on us as adults, isn't it? As parents, as daughters, as fathers, as mothers, as sisters, as friends, everything is all entwined. But this topic in particular, and it's a conversation I've had with quite a few friends recently about this idea of really feeling our feelings ourselves in our body, and feeling that in the fullness of our experience. And then when we do that, then we can accept our feelings, then we can actually then move on from them. Because labeling something, naming something does help. Of course it helps if you can acknowledge that you feel angry, and it's okay to feel angry. Of course that goes part of the way. But the whole spectrum includes what we feel in our bodies. And a couple of practices and paths got me to this stage of doing this myself for a number of years on a regular basis, and also started doing that with the children. And it's really this year where I've started to do it a lot with the children. And as a reminder for anyone who isn't familiar with Olivia and Harry, Olivia is coming up to 6 years old and Harry is 3 years old. He'll be 4 in March, and Olivia will be 6 next month actually. So that's where the ages of my children are. So yeah, this is a practice that begins, and I do it in my Parent Enrichment course, and I do it with in Parent Enrichment workshops. This is a practice where we really feel in our bodies as a first reaction to joyful feelings and feelings of discomfort. Of course, feeling a joyful feeling in our body of the adrenaline or the oxytocin, if it's love or whatever it is, this is really, really easy, isn't it? It's very, very comfortable. And then we feel that tingling sensation of, when the hairs on your arms stand up on end, and things like that. And that pleasurable feelings are really, really, that feeling of going in a roller coaster. Those feelings are really, really easy to feel and really, really comfortable to feel. And we can probably identify them with them really, really easily. Now, the feelings of discomfort are more difficult to identify, and I think this is several reasons. One, because we're conditioned to gloss over them from a very, very young age. We are conditioned to not focus on the bad feelings. also a lot of modern day spiritual practices, Western spiritual practice, I might add, are all focused on, positive vibes and, feeling good and focusing on the positive, focusing on our light, not on our shadow. And so if we do have very strong negative feelings, we do have the normal feelings in the range of human experience of, rage and anger and jealousy and spitefulness and all of these really, really uncomfortable feelings. We close down them. We don't talk about our shadow. We all want to talk about our light, and it's all love and light when we go to our yoga classes, and the world's wonderful. And I too also want to skip through the meadows with a daisy chain in my hair and never feel any discomfort. However, the full range of human experience is acknowledging our light and our shadow. And imagine how amazing this is going to be. And I'm 43 and I still find it hard to identify in my body, to be comfortable with when I'm angry, when I've shown my temper, when I'm jealous, when I'm feeling out of sorts, all things. I still find it hard, and I'm sure every single person watching this finds it hard. But wouldn't it be amazing if we can get to a stage with our children from as young as we learn this information, where we are facilitating, inviting them to feel in their bodies when they feel discomfort, to feel in their bodies, to feel safe in their bodies, so that they understand that it's safe to feel all these strong feelings. It's safe to feel really angry or jealous or crazy or whatever it is. And then that they have the power to heal themselves, so they have the power to let this go. They don't need to hold it in their body. So much of neuroscience and modern science shows us the damage that, or that damage is probably too much of an emotionally laden word, the impact that this has in our bodies when we hold our feelings and everything in for year after year after year after decades. The world is a good example of what happens when we repress our feelings over and over and over and over again. So what we're going to do is we are going to start with helping us feel safe in our bodies and the full range of feelings that we have. And we're not going to talk about naming them at all. We're not going to talk about naming our feelings to ourselves, and we're not going to name our feelings to our children either. So this is where our starting point is. And I've gone for a step-by-step process, which I've got in my bullet points there, which is how I started. And I might add that I started doing this practice of really leaning into my feelings and inviting my feelings of discomfort to show themselves for me in my body. I mean, I started this a long time ago, probably 5 years ago, when things were good and I don't want to say I didn't need it, but you know what I mean? I read about this from the first, I came across this is from an author called Pema Chodron. She's a Buddhist monk, and it's I think on the back of her books it says, the Buddhist traditions for modern life. It's really easily transferable to modern life. She's not expecting us to go and live in a monastery. She's not expecting us to live sorry, she's not a monk, is she? She's a nun. She's a nun. This is transferable to modern life, what she teaches, what she practices. And it's us being able to cope with the madness of the world, with the craziness of the world, with the craziness of our own feelings, with the natural disappointment and rejection and fear and anger and rage and all of the spectrum of emotions that we're going to feel, and keeping ourselves grounded and feeling safe in our bodies despite the madness of the world. And what she says is to lean into it all. So lean into the uncomfortable feelings. Lean into when you're feeling that rage or that shame or whatever that feeling is, instead of trying to push it away. And we push it away with all the distractions that we know about, whether it's coffee or alcohol or other distractions that we have, or shopping, spending money, or flicking through social media, all of these addictions, semi-addictions that we have, in a way that we don't feel watching TV, that we don't feel the fullness of our experience. So she was first introduced me into this practice of really feeling into these uncomfortable feelings. And then when we feel into these feelings, we when rage has overcome us, when jealousy has overcome us, whatever it is, we feel into where it is in our body first. So for me, when I feel angry, I really feel it in my solar plexus, so in my chest, upper stomach area. And then it kind of comes up into my windpipe, and I really feel it really strongly there. And then I can feel that my jaw goes when I'm really angry, and that's probably the same as every single person watching this, And then once you feel where it is in your body, then you can feel the color of it, the texture of it, the temperature of it. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it sticky? Is it thick? Is it like loads of like a ball of wool all stuck together, all woven together and knotted together? Or is it like thick tar that's really sticky that you kind of can't get off you? Is it black? Is it red? Is it orange? All the colors. So instead of running away and distracting ourselves from our uncomfortable feelings, we really lean into them. And this seems really counterintuitive, because when we're in that painful place of we've been triggered and we've got road rage, or we are tired and we're stressed and our children are just being children, but we overreact and we shout, or we lose our temper, or whatever it is, or we snap at them, we raise our voice to them, which we don't want to do. That is when, instead of distracting ourselves or blaming ourselves or shaming ourselves, that is when we really lean into that uncomfortable feeling and think, okay, I just lost it. Where do I feel that in my body? What can I do to feel safe in my body? The first stage is really feeling it, the texture, the temperature, the color of it. What is that feeling? Where is it in my body? Does it move? As I go through this process, does it move? Also for me, when I used to have panic and anxiety attacks, I really felt it in my hands. It was really mental, like this almost unbearable tingling in my hands. And now when it comes back, it came back last week for, I can't really remember why, but anyway, then I know to really feel into it. And the more painful it is, to really lean into that feeling. And then we're at the stage where, okay, can we get to a stage where we can release it? Can we release it? Can we let it go? If we can then acknowledge it's there, breathe into it, really long, deep breaths into it, then can we be at the stage where we let it go? And so our practice is firstly to get familiar with this, to get comfortable with it, so it's part of our normal daily life. When someone cuts us up in traffic, and we feel annoyed, and we might make an offhand comment and our children are in the car, start that practice, that regular practice, so it's part of normal, natural daily life of, say they've honked at you and you've honked back at them because you're annoyed with them, or you've shaken your fist, or you've said an inappropriate word or whatever, or you've raised your voice or what have you. When we're in that moment of anger, when that moment that we've lost our temper, what we can do, when we really practice feeling our feelings, we can then say that out loud, and we can say, oh, I really felt it. So your children are in the back and they can hear this. So you're just saying out loud, I really felt it in my chest when I was cut up by that car. What that feeling is, I felt really black and sticky in my chest, or my heart, or my tummy. And just let it be part of normal life, that you are expressing how it feels in your body. First of all, this is your first stage, to just express to your children, so they are used to hearing you use that language, that you can feel something in your body, that there is a feeling when there's discomfort. They can see that you're in discomfort. You've either verbalized it, you've said out loud, or you shouted, you've said an inappropriate word. And then, and they feel that energy anyway, so they see that you're in discomfort. Then the next thing they see is you verbalizing where you felt that in their body. So again, this is all, what's the way to explain it? Right, this is a real invitation to them. They're observing us all the time. They're observing how our responses are. They are noticing very gently, without us having to give a lecture, without us having this great long conversation that we're having about it, that there is a bodily reaction when we feel positive feelings and when we feel negative feelings. And of course, the joyful ones are easy to say, oh, you know, my heart is full of love when I see you, or when I hold your hand, or what have you. You know, that's the really easy stuff. Being able to stop when we feel triggered, or our buttons are pushed, or however we want to say it, or we feel annoyed, that's really the skill that we're trying to develop. So our children know that both negative and positive feelings are acceptable. We feel both in our body, and that it's part of the normal human experience. We want to normalize it. So it's part of everyday life that they see that when we're annoyed or frustrated or whatever it is, they see this discomfort and will feel it in our body. So this just becomes part of your normal daily life, depending on however often you're getting annoyed. So this is an invitation for them. They're just observing us. Excuse me, I'll take a sip of water. And then the next stage of this is that you can just, again, casually say, I'm going to really, really breathe into that so I can release that. I really feel that black sticky stuff when I was cut up then, and I'm going to just release that now. I don't want to hold that in my body anymore. And again, it's a very conversational tone. It's a very matter of fact. It's not like a sermon or a lecture or a big conversation. It's got to be very, and also if we're doing this from very young children, this will just become part of their normal experience that you're doing this. So for example, I do affirmations to the children as they fall asleep at night, and it's just become a normal thing of what we do, and they expect it. And if I've forgotten, or I don't do it, or if I fall asleep when I'm lying with them, when they fall asleep, they'll remind me. You see what I mean? So this just expression of how we're feeling in our body just becomes a normal part of life. It's not forced in any way. What have I said here? Yes, it's formal conversation. And then when you've done this practice a lot and they're used to it, you may find that they say it out loud one day, that they feel something when they've had an argument with their brother or their sister, or you can invite it. You can invite it from them by, they've just had an argument with their brother or sister, and you can see they're really cross and they're really, and they're being really, really upset. And then when they come to you for a cuddle, when they're in that calming down phase and you've comforted them and they've had a tissue and drink of water and a nice big cuddle, you can say something very gentle, very, an invitation, something like, I wonder if, actually, is an amazing question, amazing statement to say with children, because it invites their answer, it invites their participation. So in this scenario, what have I written here? I wonder where you felt that in your body when you were fighting with your brother. I wonder where you felt that in your body when you, I had another example, I can't remember what it was. I wonder where you felt that in your body when your sister hit you, or whatever it was. So we're not rushing to, I bet you felt angry, I bet you felt sad, I bet you felt scared, none of that. We're getting to the first stage of feeling that in your body. They're not going to answer the first couple of times. They may surprise you, but they're not going to answer the first couple of times. This is really just inviting them to feel it in their bodies. We're not expecting an answer. We're not expecting in these early stages for it to be all sorted and nicely compartmentalized. And I guess this is the point that I'm trying to convey now, is that we really want everything to be nice and ordered and compartmentalized and structured. And we like our feelings to be like that. And we really, really want our children's feelings to be like that. So they've had a tantrum and then we've come to them and finished, all over. Right, let's move on to the next thing. But life isn't like that. Life is really, really messy. And our feelings are really, really messy. And our bodily sensations are really messy. And our bodily sensations, we can't control how we feel, and we can't control what happens in our body, but we can control what we release. We can control what we let go of. We can decide what to let go of. And when we feel discomfort, we can decide to let go of it. This is a lot harder if you're 20, 30, 40 years old. But if you are 40 years old, but if you are only 3 years old, only 6 years old, only 8 years old, and you're starting this practice from early on in life, this is going to be a lot easier for them. And this prevents this disconnect that happens to us when we don't really know what we're feeling. We don't really know what we want in life. We because we're saying, oh, it doesn't matter, it didn't hurt when we fell over, or we're saying, you know, we heard children should be seen and not heard when we were young, or any of these things. It's we want to prevent that disconnect from happening, or make that disconnect as small as possible. We want to invite this feeling of being safe in our bodies, and our children being safe in their bodies. And it starts with us, and if we can be safe in our bodies and we can feel that whatever our feelings are, they're acceptable, and we can just lean into them, and we can breathe into them. We know where they are in the body, we feel where they are in our body, and it might be in our head or our jaw or our hands or our chest. It doesn't really matter where they are. It's feeling into where that is, and then that will allow us to release it in the fullness of time. And this isn't a one-time experience, a one-time releasing. This is over and over again. We lose our temper, we get frustrated, you know, over and over again. This isn't a quick fix. This is a practice for us to do forever, and this is a practice for our children to learn so they can do forever as well. So going back to the experience with our children, it's that question, I wonder where you felt that in your body. This is the invitation that we offer to them. And then over time, they're going to start giving some answers. Over time, they're going to start feeling in their body, and they're going to be able to offer us. And then we're at the stage where, when they are closer to feeling in their body and verbalizing what they're feeling in their body, that's when we can offer them vocabulary. An angry feeling or a frustrated feeling, but this is much, 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 much further down the line than you were angry with your brother. Finished, end of conversation. Do you see what I mean? There's a big, big leap between having the experience, feeling it in our body, and then the stepping stone, the further away, much further away stepping stone is this is what you call that feeling. First, we get them used to their bodily sensations. Firstly, we get them comfortable in discomfort, I guess, to let them know that it's okay to feel all these feelings. And they're children, they have poor impulse control, or I shouldn't say poor impulse control, because that's that's emotionally labeling it. It's underdeveloped impulse control. They're not undeveloped motor control. They're not able to control their impulses yet, and that's because they're children. And their prefrontal cortex, in terms of logic and reasoning, the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for logic and reasoning and problem solving, isn't fully developed until the age of 24. So when we are expecting a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old or an 8-year-old or a teenager or a 14-year-old to be able to control themselves when they're angry, and to then explain about it and then move on and not carry it with them and not carry them in their bodies, I mean, that's absolutely impossible. They can't do it. So what they can do is feel. And in the first 6 years of life, and if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I talk about Dr. Montessori's work in terms of she was one of the first educators to understand that children need concrete experiences in the first 6 to 7 years of life. Everything they learn is through first-hand experiences. They cannot grasp abstract concepts. So to really give them a first-hand experience, a concrete experience of their feelings, it's got to be linked to their bodily sensations. What are they feeling within their body? It's very convenient to have an experience and then give it a label straight away. But connecting the dots is the bodily sensation in the middle of that. And that's a first-hand concrete experience. They can feel in their bodies with practice. They can feel, that whatever it is, sticky feeling or itchy feeling or whatever it is in their bodies. This is a really, really valuable practice. And this will go hand in hand. If you're practicing, the little meditations that you can get for children now, which are really beautiful, and they become more of their body awareness. If you're practicing yoga with your children, or Tai Chi, or I don't mean formally in a class, I mean just, at home. Any of these practices that help children to become really connected with their bodies. You know, the great time to do this is in the first 6 to 7 years of life, because they are grounded. They are all about first-hand experiences. A 2-year-old can really, really easily, with daily practice, start to feel the sensations in his and her body. It's really, you know, the first stage of this actually is bathroom independence, toilet learning, isn't it? Just becoming aware of the sensations of their body when they're wet and when they're dry. This is the very, very basics, but we can take it a step further and link it to the feelings, the body sensations, what's happening in them, inside them when they feel joyful feelings or they feel feelings of discomfort. So it's all linked, it's all entwined, like everything, with childhood and with parenting and everything that we're doing. Excuse me for wriggling. I'm just going to get a bit more comfortable. So there we are. Please ask me any questions if you would like to. And I'm just going to check through my notes that I haven't missed anything. Yeah, I think my notes, what I had missed is we want to make sure that they're having a personal experience. When I mentioned to some friends that I was going to do this Instagram live about a somatic approach to talking about feelings, one of my friends who was a teacher in the UK, he commented on this, is that if we talk about feelings in a very general way with children, then it depersonalizes them. It's just becomes a theme of the month or a topic. It's not something that's actually relatable. We want to make it relatable. It's, you know, don't get me wrong, it's great that there's all these lovely books on, you know, a book of feelings, and we're giving children this language. It's really, really, really great that this is completely different to when I grew up, you know, a generation ago, where children should be seen and not heard, and there wasn't this understanding that children have the depth of feelings that adults do. And also, if a child was crying or having a tantrum, then it was sort of like switch off, you know, these feelings are not welcomed at all, and the child's being a brat if they're crying, or any of these other labels that were put on them. You know, we've come so far from that, and I'm not denigrating in any way the great books that you can get now, but we've got to give them the middle piece of the jigsaw puzzle: the experience, the bodily sensation or the feeling, and then the vocabulary, you know, naming it. Is really, really vital. As I said, that's a long way away. That's a bigger step. When it's something that's concrete in their body, give them the concrete experience first before we go to the naming. Does anyone have any questions? If you'd like to type your question, then do now. Hey, there we are. Hi Nina, thank you very much for your question. What you could do is you could leave it open initially. I would leave it open initially, and you could actually bring it back to your experience in the initial one. So you would say, I wonder if you felt that in your body. And then there may be no response at all for the first couple of times. And then from that, you could say, oh, when that person cut me up, when that gentleman cut me up in the traffic the other day, or when I dropped that glass and the glass went everywhere, I really felt that in my heart, or I felt that in my chest, or I felt that in my tummy. You can bring it back to yourself without making it about you, if you know what I mean. It's sort of like, I wonder if, or I wonder where you felt that in your body. And then if it feels like you want to offer them a little bit more, then you can say where you feel it in your body when something similar happens, or when you feel discomfort. Do you see what I mean? The reason we want to keep it as broad as possible is that children still, they really, really need our validation. So the less information we can give them, I guess, or the less specifics, I guess is the word I'm saying, is because they will jump on anything, and for our validation they will agree. Do you see what I mean? So we want to make it as open as possible, because a 2-year-old, will say, if you say, oh, do you feel it in your arm? Do you feel it in your chest? They're going to agree with you, because either they want to agree with you because that's what their need is, or they're just going to agree with the first thing that you say. Do you see what I mean? An older child, yes, may be able to take the time to think about it, but if you're doing it with a 2-year-old, just leave it as open as possible, and then trust that over time, you could do this every day for a year, and then suddenly in a year's time they're going to be saying it for themselves. It's definitely a process. It's not something that we can think that will have a definite impact. This is laying the foundations, and this is setting the scene. This isn't something that, we may with some children, but it's not going to be instant results. And I'll give you an example that I used last week with Harry, and I explained about how when his behaviour is very, very boisterous, and he can be boisterous, he's very, very physical and very affectionate, but there is a stage where the boisterousness sort of switches into aggression, and then sort of like everything that he does becomes aggression. Like he'll be playing, and then like the pushing will be too much, the cuddle kind of will be around my neck and it'll be too hard and it'll be sore, or he'll tickle me and it'll be too much, and he'll pick up the cat and it's too rough, and he'll do something to Olivia and it's too rough. Do you know what I mean? Everything kind of spills over into that. And I know it's usually because he's tired. So now I know that, and I know the signs. So I will invite him. I say, where do you feel it in your body when this is happening? When you're pulling on my neck and I'm saying that it hurts you, where do you feel that in your body, that you want to just hold on to me, that you just want to carry on pulling my neck? Where do you feel that? And then and I'll say that a couple of times, because all the things that I used to do, I block his hands, and he's 3.5. I block his hands and I say, are you feeling okay? Let's connect. I'll try reading him a book. All of those things work, but nothing works for more than a couple of minutes, So I really started thinking earlier in the year, I need to do a different approach with this, because it's not working. What I was doing wasn't working. Definitely you can't do that. The strict discipline wasn't working. The talking wasn't working. The connection was like reading a book and trying to reset him that way. That was working up to a point. But what only really, really has worked, and it could be his maturity, now he's 3.5. We've been practicing this on and off all year. Now what I say, I wonder where you feel that in your body, or where do you feel that in your body when you want to squeeze Wiggly, that's the kitten, really, really tightly? Where do you feel that in your body? And then after a couple of minutes of just saying that and sort of shadowing him when he's in this sort of boisterous / aggressive mode, then he'll say, oh, me just feel really tired. Me just want a cuddle or something like that. And it's getting into, it's very uncomfortable for me, because this behavior is completely normal, and there's nothing wrong with him. It's just part of who he is, and it's being able to channel that. And when he's older, I know he's going to be, if we support him in this, he's going to be able to channel that but what I want to do in the meantime is so that he gets to understand that when he's being like this, it's because he's tired. So sometime down the line, maybe in 1 year's time, or 5 years' time, or 10 years' time, he's going to know the signs that when he starts sort of behaving in that disordered way, I guess, that he's feeling tired, there's something that needs to be attended to. There's something that his body needs. Is it a drink of water? Is it some food? Is it to rest? So it's really, really the building blocks. It's a very gentle process, and it's a gradual process. So it's really, for a little one, really keep it as open as possible, so to avoid them just latching onto something that you say. Because if, for example, in a situation, if your child has just hit someone else and you say straight away, oh, you felt really angry then, they're going to agree. They'll latch onto whatever we say. So try and keep it as open as possible. That was a very long way to answer your question, so I hope that helps. And any other questions, or I'll just check that I've covered everything. Oh yeah, and I guess the other really powerful thing about this approach that I haven't mentioned yet is that when we show our children that our feelings and our bodily sensations are ours, and we can take responsibility for them. We feel them in our body, and then we choose to release them whichever way, whether that's breath work, deep breathing, meditation. However, when we're showing our children that we're doing this, and then as a practice over time, they can start doing this as well. It's really, really powerful, because we're actually showing them that we're not victims of our emotions, we're not victims of our feelings. It shows them that we are, I guess, taking responsibility for them. We are not letting them control us. We, over time, because we're showing ourselves this compassion, that we're leaning into it, we're feeling it in our body, we're not running away. We're showing them, giving them a really, really powerful message that we can heal ourselves, we can be in control of ourselves. We are not passive to our emotions and our feelings, because a lot of us have grown up like that, and a lot of us feel that now. And I know when I lose my temper, I do have this feeling, this sense of disorientation of I'm not in control of myself, but I am. I can take control of myself again. It just takes a little bit of work. And it's so powerful when we realize that we can do this. And it's really powerful if we can give our children this gift, this invitation to be able to feel this experience, take this experience as our own, and have that power within ourselves to heal ourselves, essentially. That's what it feels like to me. Our feelings are ours alone. We're not... There's also what happens to us if we grow up in a household where the dynamic is, the family system, is that we're blamed for other people's feelings, we're blamed for other people's emotions, and that would be in a codependent family dynamic. Then we grow up as adults believing that we're responsible for someone else's happiness. And that's actually a really toxic situation to get into. But in this way, if we use this somatic approach from the earliest years, that our feelings are our feelings inside our bodies, and we have the power to feel them and experience them and release them, then we don't need to project them onto somebody else. We're not going to project them on somebody else. We as a parent are modeling that we're not doing that. We are, I guess, owning them would be the way of saying it. We are taking responsibility for them. And they're ours alone. It's not someone else's responsibility to make us feel better. If we can model that to our children, and then they start to internalize that, I mean, that would be pretty powerful, I think. A really powerful place for us to be as parents, and within the context of our own family, as children, as brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, as friends, So the next time, I guess my invitation is, the next time that you're with a friend or your partner or someone who's going through something difficult, you can invite them to feel that feeling in their body. The next time you're feeling really, really out of sorts and that discomfort, I invite you to see where you feel that in your body. What does that feel like? What's that texture? What is it like to really lean into that feeling of discomfort? And then we can do it for our children, as I said right at the beginning, when this is a normal daily practice for us of finding comfort in discomfort. Feeling comfortable in discomfort. That's when we're really, really role modeling, and we're really powerful and empowered in who we are as humans and who we are as parents as well, and this gift that we're giving to our children. So I think that's everything, unless there's any other questions. Looking at the time, 40 minutes, that's the usual time, isn't it? I'll just check my notes, but yes, focus on your child's experience, what they're feeling in their body. We want to avoid this disconnect, and we want to let them know that the full range of emotions and feelings are okay. They're in their body, but they can release them. They don't need to hold on to them. And the less that we hold on to the stuff, the better it's going to serve us throughout our lives. And also be really, really compassionate as we're doing this work. This is not a substitute for any type of therapy or other support that you need if you're going through particular things in your life that are really, really challenging. This isn't expecting this to be a quick fix or a magic fix or anything. This is part of our whole practice of looking after ourselves. This is part of our whole practice of parenting, of role modeling to our children, how to look after ourselves, how to acknowledge ourselves, how to acknowledge when we're making a mistake. All of this stuff, it's all practicing self-compassion, because there's so much going on in the world in general at the moment, but there's so much going on as parents, and it's so easy. These feelings of overwhelm are huge, aren't they? And then in that overwhelm, the only place we can find comfort is in disconnection. But actually, let's go the other way and lean into it and find practices. And yoga, meditation, tai chi, all of these practices that focus on energy and getting us in our body and our body awareness. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van Kolk. That's an amazing book in terms of understanding trauma and how that affects the body in different ways, and then practices to release it. And he mentions yoga in one of those in that book, actually. And Pema Chodron, who I mentioned at the beginning, she's done loads and loads of books, but Start Where You Are is a great one. Heart Advice for Difficult Times is a really, really great one. How to accept, no, that's Start Where You Are, How to Accept New Others. Oh, When Things Fall Apart, Taking the Leap, that's freeing yourself from your old habits and fears. Pema Chodron has done some really, really amazing books, so I really recommend her work and her different types of breath work to really allow a fullness of our experience and be able to lean in fearlessly to our places of discomfort and our sore spots and our raw spots and our vulnerability and all of that. So I hope you've enjoyed this evening, and my big news is that my online course, An Introduction to Enriching Environments, is coming very, 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 very soon, and I think Sarah Jane is still watching, so thank you so much, Sarah Jane, for this Herculean project that has become bigger than we ever imagined it would be. And that will be launching really, really soon. We've just got a few more things to do. I put an announcement on my feed today, as designed by the amazing Sarah Jane. So we're almost there, and we will let you know as soon as it is ready. Find me on enrichingenvironments.com, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and we have lots and lots of other amazing things coming your way very, very soon. Thank you so much, and hi Dan. Thank you so much, and I will see you all soon. Keep sending in your questions for Top Tip Tuesday. I love hearing them, and I love answering them, and they give me so much more material for my feed and for forthcoming workshops and courses. So I'll see you all soon. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.